Have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? I recently saw a video he made and I was shocked. He's in his 80s and still kicking butt and working out and staying active. He did this by just making one change. Chuck says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing too, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger, her body looks leaner, and she has energy all day. Chuck made a special video that explains everything. Make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/inspired or by clicking on a link below this video. It'll change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/inspired or click on a link in the description below to watch the video now. If the legendary Chuck Norris can do this at 81 years old, so can you. Watch his method by clicking on the link in the description box below. chuckdefense.com/inspired.
A word to the wise: without real spiritual mentoring, too much freedom can lead to the soul's decay. This world and its wicked system will become harder and harder to deal with without a real friend and a mentor. And I wish all of you the best on this fascinating journey. It ain't over.
Here's the thing that's happening right now. We are in the middle of the biggest epidemic that the world has ever seen, and nobody's talking about it. And it's not COVID. It's a massive mental health crisis. People are struggling with mental health stuff beyond anything we've ever seen before.
I'm not adopting your language. I'm not respecting your preferences because you don't own reality. You don't own grammar. You don't own definitions.
That's why they pay athletes these fantastic salaries. I was listening to the radio the other day. They just contracted to pay one player on one team $6 million a year.
And why is that?
It's the Roman circus. Football games and basketball games, all to keep the idiots preoccupied with things that don't mean anything in the scheme of the entire world, so that they don't have the time to learn what the truth is, so they don't ever get smart enough to learn how they're being manipulated.
I believe transparency. You're the board of directors for this corporation called the American government. You're the board of directors for this corporation called the American government.
Biometric facial recognition scanning to roll out across 30 NFL stadiums in 2024. The federal government has been illegally surveilling and building profiles for Americans in a secret portal called DSAC. For those who oppose firearm restrictions, lockdowns, and vaccine mandates, and or support border security and are labeling them as domestic extremists. Yeah, the Domestic Security Alliance Council, DSAC, with the FBI and DHS, bases profiles entirely off political beliefs, working with 650 companies to gather data on Americans using merchant category codes to flag people who shop at Bass Pro Shop, Cabela's, and or purchase religious texts.
Good morning, sir. I do believe we have everything. If I can first say happy holiday for Dr. Martin Luther King, and please allow me to say how proud I am of the almost 25,000 National Guardsmen who have come in from all 50 states and territories to help support the Secret Service and the police departments with a peaceful transition of military power. Good morning, sir.
Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Inspired live stream. It is Wednesday, March 20th, 2024. We're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. And yes, friends, we might be even winning. As I have been saying, listen, I'll give you the greatest sign that we are indeed winning. Every day, more and more people join our truth and freedom movement. That's all that it is. It's truth and freedom. It's not a specific belief system. Truth and freedom. Guess what's never happening? Nobody's saying, hey, I'm out of here. I have had enough of truth and freedom. I'm going to go back into the matrix. That's not happening. It's a one-way street. And this movement is getting bigger and bigger every day. Today, I want to talk about the extraordinary signals that are all over the place that point to a massive event that is coming. I want to explain what these signals actually mean, how they come about, what you should pay attention to, why you don't need to be afraid at all. But the first thing I want to do, I want to play a clip for you. And I want you to imagine that it is October, the end of October of 2019, right around, let's say it's Halloween 2019. And this clip here that I'm about to show you goes viral. It reaches tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people worldwide. Imagine that for a moment. Now let's watch this clip together. How could history have been different?
On behalf of our center and our partners, the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to our audience here in New York, as well as our larger virtual audience participating online today. The Event 201 scenario is fictional. Today's scenario is going to simulate meetings of a multi-stakeholder group called the Pandemic Emergency Board.
We're at the start of what's looking like it will be a severe pandemic. And there are problems emerging that can only be solved by global business and governments working together.
There's been some conspiracy theories that are around about the potential that pharmaceutical companies or the UN have released this for their own benefit.
And maybe this is a time for us to showcase some cases where we are able to bring forward some bad actors and leave it before the courts to decide whether they have actually spread some fake news.
A new coronavirus. Infected people got a respiratory illness with symptoms ranging from mild flu-like signs to severe pneumonia.
In related news, a significant demand for personal protective equipment like N95 masks and gloves are on the rise. Patients are overwhelming healthcare facilities. People are avoiding public spaces out of fear of infection and in compliance with public health recommendations. Our U.S. affiliate has just released polling results on public expectations for a vaccine, and 65% of those polled are eager to take the vaccine, even if it's experimental.
I am not optimistic about having a vaccine in time to be relevant during this pandemic.
With enough money and political will, anything is possible.
Penalties have been put in place for spreading harmful falsehoods, including arrests.
If the solution means controlling and reducing access to information, I think it's the right choice.
What exactly are the risks and benefits of staying home from work? Absolutely, we need to save lives, but we literally cannot afford a heavy-handed response that suffocates our economy.
The world saw large-scale protests and in some places riots. This led to violent crackdowns in some countries and even martial law. The public lost trust in their respective administration. Economists say the economic turmoil caused by such a pandemic will last for years. The societal impacts, the loss of faith in government, the distrust of news, and the breakdown of social cohesion could last even longer.
All right, friends, for those of you who don't know, this thing really happened. In October of 2019, Johns Hopkins, the CDC, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Chinese CDC, and other private and federal partners had this huge exercise in New York City. Event 201. They simulated a novel coronavirus outbreak. And as you can see, this was a short clip of what this exercise looked like. I mean, this is absolutely word for word what we saw unfold just a few months later. Started in Asia, right? Started in China just a month or two later, November, December 2019, and then it spread over the world, the whole ordeal. What if this clip, what if Event 201 had been publicized in a way that would have reached tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people ahead of time? So by the time the Mockingbird media, the mainstream media, had started talking about this, people would have said, hold on, didn't they just have an exercise for this? How did they know? This is just 2 months ago. How could they predict all these things? The point here is that 2020 and what happened caught the world at large off guard, completely off guard. They fell for panic and fear because they were completely unprepared and they had no dots to connect, and they fell into a frenzy. Now the world and the people have changed since in very, very intense ways. The people aren't who they were 4 years ago. Millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, maybe even 1 billion people have since started their awakening to varying degrees. So whatever situation that we're in right now and what we're facing next, and we are facing things next, it will be completely different. Now I want to get a little bit to the signals that we've been picking up that leads me to strongly suggest that there is a big event, a massive event ahead of us. I don't know when exactly. I would say sooner rather than later. And what it will be, the nature, I don't want to speculate on that. What I mean by massive event, it will have an impact on vast numbers of people, like 2020 did, had an impact on everybody in some way. The reason why I'm saying this, and I want to say one more time, I'm not fearful at all about it. I don't think you need to be. The reason why I'm saying this is, as a researcher, my first tool of research is intuition. That's where everything begins. Intuition lets me notice things. Intuition lets me see things. It's the same with Christine. That's how we operate. We both operate first from intuition, and then we go and we confirm data. We look at more, and then we see, is there a pattern or is there not a pattern, right? Does it only matter to us individually, or is there a bigger picture that people need to know about? So the intuitive picking up started months and months ago, really months ago. I was starting to hear language simultaneously come out in different parts of the world by different people and in my own field around me. That's when you are in a grocery store, you're at the gas station, you're at a restaurant, you're doing something, and you pick up words and you pick up things that are out of the ordinary. You just go, where did that come from? Why did that person say that? Doesn't make any sense in the context of where they're in, right? So this is something that happens, and when it happens frequently, it is a pattern. I believe if you really want to understand the whole science of it, go and listen to Cliff High. He's been doing that for a very long time. But basically, it's a feedback loop, right? So something is in the field, and when the potential for that something, whether that's an event or whatever, becomes bigger, people start picking up that frequency. They don't know it subconsciously, but they start saying words and word patterns, and they start saying them out of context. So they'll just intuitively say something that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the context of the conversation because they picked that up. It was the same before 9/11. People call, in the intelligence community, they talk about chatter, right? It's when all the signals that they can measure and everything that they have under surveillance, when there's a lot of activity and a lot of similar phrases and words and warnings that are being used, they call that chatter. But it's really a principle that comes from the field of infinite information, where when something is about to happen or some potential is about to be expressed in our physical reality, before that, there are sort of hints and signs and warnings, if you will, and people pick that up. The more intuitive the people are, the more they pick that up. And right now, I'm seeing an intensification of that picking up. It means that people that are unconnected at the same time are sharing very similar information, even word for word, and they are describing something that they feel or believe or think will happen. And when that becomes so synchronized that it can be planned and that it's happening simultaneously, you have to pay attention to it. That's what we're paying attention to. Now, some people, but not too many, call it a black swan event, right? A black swan event is an unpredictable financial event that causes large-scale havoc. And I don't think we're talking about a classic black swan event. The very fact that so many people are picking it up would already kind of say it's not black swan anymore. It's kind of expected now. The other thing, which is more logical thinking, is this truth wave that is sweeping over the world, not our nation, the world, is so intense that the opposition, if you will, the dark forces, they have a few tools left in their box, and they're starting to throw them out randomly. And some of those tools are still big events that they can produce and probably will produce. However, here's the thing. The full potential of such false flag events can only unfold when the people are unprepared, unaware, and fall into a state of fear and panic. then these events have huge impact. However, what has happened since 2020? We've had a few big events. We had a few huge weather events. I'm not saying natural weather events, storms, earthquakes, floods, fires, and they affected the people that were in that vicinity greatly. Don't get me wrong. But the population at large reacted differently than you would expect. More skepticism, more questioning, more wondering, more researching. Same goes for the two major conflicts that have erupted since 2020, Ukraine and Israel, Gaza, right? Very, very different reactions. Yes, both the Ukraine and the Israel thing in the very beginning sort of had a knee-jerk reaction, but very quickly people caught on, started asking bigger questions, and they are to this day asking bigger questions. Yes, the people that are there and the people that are directly involved, I don't get me wrong, I don't want to minimize anyone's suffering. This is real. Parts of this are very, very real. Not everything, but parts of this are very real. And for those who are directly involved, the suffering is horrendous. My heart goes out to absolutely everybody that's been affected by any of these events. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the population at large used to be programmed to react in a very specific way, take the side that the Mockingbird media told them to take, and rally around that. And it made actions for the politicians much easier. We're past that time, which is a positive sign. There is so much more opposition, and people saying, no. We know there's something off here. This is not what it's not like what it looks like. It's completely different. So how that pertains to the coming event is that whatever will unfold, in my current estimation, will not be able to fulfill its full potential in a negative way. Because the way that we react and our awareness around these events, be they what they are, I don't know. And I don't want to speculate on the nature because I don't know. I've heard certain things, but I don't want to speculate. But the way that we react, if that reaction is immediate fear, worry, panic, then we fall for it. Then we help them. If our reaction is taking a few deep breaths, centering ourselves, balancing ourselves, and keeping our creative thinking intact, then those events will not have the desired effect. They will have the opposite effect for those who are perpetrating them. So this is why the talking about it is important, not because we want to add to that energy. The energy is already here. This is the manifestation of the truth vibrations as predicted by so many people, including our friend David Icke. He wrote about it 30 years ago. They felt that coming. They know it was coming, but there was no evidence in the world, really. There was just a vibrational truth. And that was that the truth vibrations will start sweeping the world. There will be a huge wave, a smaller waves, and then a huge wave. And eventually, it will become the majority of people that are at least partially interested in learning the truth. And this is where we are. So these events are sort of a natural consequence of these truth vibrations going through the world right now. I do not want to contribute to any panic, fear, or worry. What we say is, be prepared for a disruption of systemic life. And that should be a motto for life anyways. We shouldn't live the way we have been living, where we rely on a system we have zero control over. That's just stupid. It was stupid of us, but we didn't know better. Now we know better. Now we can change it. So to talk about a disruption of this matrix as a negative thing, it's ludicrous. It's a good thing. Anything that disrupts this is a good thing as long as we stay in a balanced state and keep striving for greater self-reliance and independence. Then we will be good. And that should be the motto for everyone. It is not natural to live a life in dependence, especially if you have no control over what you depend on, right? That is just not natural to us. And it's only been really going on for a little over 100 years. It wasn't like that before. People didn't have that kind of basic dependence on a system. You know, everybody had gardens. Everybody was doing something. Everybody sort of had access to food and water in the most basic way, grown locally, decentralized. It was only since the system was so centralized, supply chains were centralized, and people were taught that you just do your 9 to 5, don't worry about the rest, fill out the forms, pay the taxes, go on vacation twice a year, don't worry about anything, everything else will be taken care of. Who, when, where, we don't know. We just know the grocery store is full and the shelves are full. That will change. It has already changed in instances, and it will continue to change. So that's just something that it's common sense not to want to rely on that and change your lifestyle. But there are other preparations that are necessary too. And here's what I predict will happen. Two things. This continual growth of this truth wave that we're seeing. It's like this massive tsunami wave that just keeps growing, the truth wave. And as it is sweeping over people, and as people are bathing in the truth, it is very challenging at times, because the truth doesn't come in good, bad. It just comes in the truth. Sometimes the truth is very painful. Sometimes it is very liberating. In the end, it will free us all. But there need to be anchor lights, if you will, or lighthouses everywhere. That's you. That's your friends, maybe your community. We need to have lighthouses everywhere around the world, so they can assist the people that are sort of affected by this truth wave. And it comes, for them, it all sort of comes out of the blue. And the things that they will see and won't be able to deny any longer, they will shock them to the core, and they won't have years to deal with it. They'll have to deal with it in the moment. So the first thing that's needed is lighthouses everywhere, people that are balanced, people that themselves have taken care of their own affairs so they can be of assistance, and that can guide others and say, it's okay. I know this is painful right now. I know this hurts. I know it's unbelievable, but we're going to get through this. I've already been through it. I've already done it, and others have too. There's millions of us everywhere. We can do this, and there's something much better in the future if we get through this and when we get through this. That's the first step. The second step is real healers, and those healers are coming up everywhere. People are feeling inspired after they have done their own internal healing, trauma healing, of course, physical healing as well. That's part of it, where they reach a level, a state of wholeness again. I'm not saying fully. We're all in the process of healing. It's a journey. But when they reach a level of wholeness that allows them to learn these tools and techniques and then teach others how to do it. One of those awakened, beautiful healers is our daughter. If you go to our website, theinspiredchannel.com, you go to healing, you can find out all about it. She does deep trauma healing. That's what she's really inspired to do. And many others are waking up to, that's my purpose, that's my calling. I've been telling her, like I've been telling many others, trauma healing, spiritual, physical, and psychological trauma healing will be the most sought after modality in the next years and decades. It will be the most important field of healing, because it is the foundation of all other healing. So trauma healing, that which we cannot see, but which runs our lives and our responses to everything. That's what creates a fear response in you. Nothing will create such an intense fear response than when your unhealed trauma is triggered. You don't know that. You don't, because you don't know what that is. You just feel that almost illogical, irrational fear coming up, or panic. That is a great sign that there's unhealed trauma. The stigma of that is thankfully almost gone. There is very little finger pointing, shaming, and guilting going on anymore when it comes to trauma healing, which is a wonderful thing. The knowledge around this is spreading like wildfire in a beautiful way. More and more people are realizing how impactful that is when it's unhealed, and how impactful it is when it is healed. So we're in a really, really good situation for trauma healing to become the topic and the modality that it needs to be, reaching everyone everywhere, because every being on earth is currently affected. So that is part of this beautiful journey. And why I want you to make it through these events that might be very massive is because we need you. We need as many awakening and healed people as possible to be those lighthouses. It's really as simple as that. So think about, like we always say, think about What do you need on a spiritual level to be balanced? What do you need on a physical level to be balanced? What do you need maybe from a financial standpoint to remain balanced through very, very unexpected and impactful events? They are coming. I'm certain of that. And I don't see them as something inherently negative. That's what I want to say. I don't see, looking back, I think as horrific the truths were that we have learned from 2020 onwards, right? I welcome this period. I appreciate it, and I'm thankful for it, because the world could not have gotten to where we are now without it. We couldn't have. There were so many people that were, quote unquote, forced to look at the truth because they felt it's a life or death situation. They felt it. And so they needed to go to the truth, and it set them free. It set them it sent them on a journey that they're still on. So we needed that. As crazy as it sounds, we really needed it. The next event that's coming will not be of that nature, and it will unfold completely different, because our energetic attention won't be nearly as intense as it was then. The reaction of people won't be nearly as intense. Their bullshit meter is up. Their spiritual awakening is moving forward. Their true north compass that's inside of them is better calibrated. All of these things mean that this massive event that we think is kind of around the corner, I think, will play out very differently. And then, there's not much left in their toolbox. There are a few things we know of, a few, and then there's others that we don't know of. And I sort of always think that whenever people think now is the time for the fake alien invasion, something else comes along. That's what they're good at. They're good at throwing people off and throwing something in that nobody saw coming. That's okay. We see it coming. That's what I'm saying. I'm not specifying what the nature will be. What I will specify is that it will probably have an effect on vast numbers of people, because that's what 2020 did. And we can learn from that. So I kind of encourage you, even though it's painful, go back, think through what has unfolded in the early months of 2020 and then throughout 2020 and 21, some places 22, and think about how would you have reacted differently? How much time could you have saved yourself if you had known certain things ahead of time, or at least looked at them from a different perspective, right? Rather than just following the story, you go, okay, wait. I'll take a step back. I'll breathe. I'll remain connected. I'll pray. I'll meditate. I'll center myself first. What are they wanting me to do here? What's the reaction that they're looking for? And don't give them that. Don't give them that. Remain creative. I was in a few life or death situations in my life. And there's one thing that my dad taught me when I was a little boy. I remember that and I didn't understand it at the time, every time when something was happening that scared me, or where I was in huge pain, or where I was feeling a threat, the first thing he told me is take a few deep breaths, breathe deeply. I remember he kept saying that. I was like, what does breathing have to do with it? And he might not even know what he was doing, but intuitively he taught me to center myself in the moment and calm myself down. Breath will do that. So later on, I was in a few life or death situations that, I walked away completely unharmed from, because that's what I did. I breathed and I calmed myself down, and I kept my creative thinking intact. So that allowed me to make a good decision rather than a decision out of panic. So don't be fearful. There's nothing to be fearful about. We have ultimately created this together. And if we can keep the labeling out of the equation for a moment and look at this as good or bad, it is part of the transformation. It is part of the transformation. Last but not least, I'll tell you this. Every single time, this forum, the Inspired channel, right? Especially on on the YT platform, and we're now broadcasting to Rumble. We're on our own website. We're on X, but especially the YT platform shut us down. It was like shut us down multiple times over the years. Complete deletion. Imagine you wake up one morning and everything's gone. So there's not a trace of it left. It's just gone, like it never existed. First time that happens, yeah, you know your breath becomes shallow. You just go, where did it all go? How do I connect with the people? Every single time we bounced back, we got it back, and that has happened 4 or 5 times. However, we learned that even though that is an extremely uncomfortable event, and there were other uncomfortable events in our lives that were far more intense than this, far more, every single time that happened, we had a choice. We could fall for the fear, the panic, the worry, or we could accept that event and look for what is it inspiring in us, and how can we become better because of it. And the beautiful thing was that every time that happened, we bounced back, something better followed, something greater, something more expansive, something we couldn't have imagined before. So life, or the universe, or whatever how you want to look at it, it created an event for us that allowed us to grow in massive ways. We chose to grow, but it created the opportunity for us. Look at 2020 and what happened in that light. It allowed millions of people to grow in ways they couldn't have imagined before. And so the challenges that come into your life, individually or collectively, if you can find that, if you can find the truth that every challenge is ultimately an extraordinary opportunity for you to grow and expand. And the beautiful thing is, all you have to do is accept that and give thanks for it. You don't have to, in the moment, know what it is. Just give thanks and accept that that's the truth. And it will start revealing itself to you. You will start getting ideas, inspirations, and then follow that. You know, it's not only making lemonade out of lemons. Life might give you a completely new fruit. It might give you a completely new set of tools and opportunities. Challenges are such amazing opportunities for growth. We see this now every day. Life and the world at large and what's happening is literally forcing / inspiring people to rethink everything and make better choices. That's ultimately what all of this is about. That's why I'm not fearful. And these mass events, these events that have an effect on large numbers of people, they used to set humanity back because people were too uninformed, too disconnected, too programmed. So there was a setback in our consciousness, a setback in our ability to free ourselves more. This has changed. The trend has changed since 2020. These mass events now do the opposite. Yes, again, there are people who experience tremendous suffering of it, and I don't want to minimize that in any way, shape, or form. But for many of the others, those are catalyst events that allow them to grow spiritually, physically, mentally, on all levels, and allow them to make better decisions. They inspire them to become more excellent, a better version of themselves, to look for the truth, to live the truth. That's why I don't fear these events. And I accept that that's part of our transformational journey. And ultimately, here's what we're doing. We're right now, there's the rudder, there's a ship, there's the rudder. And for the longest time, a very small group of entities had their hand on the rudder. And we were somewhere on the ship, enjoying the view, getting distracted by the circus, by the show, whatever. And they were steering the ship. And now we are collectively reaching for that rudder. And some days we're holding it, and other days, we're not quite there yet. But we are getting there. We're all our brothers and sisters together. We're beginning to take back the rudder, steering the ship again, and being in charge of it on where this journey is truly going. We're taking back what was rightfully ours from the beginning. That's what we're doing. It's a wonderful journey. I'm honored to be part of it. I'm honored to be with you on this. I'm honored that we are on this ship together. And I couldn't think of a better life mission or life purpose than doing this together. So don't be afraid. You have everything you need. Go inside, unlock it. Unlock all the beautiful capabilities and secrets that are inside of you. They will guide you through whatever's coming. No need to be fearful. And go out, talk to people. Let your inner compass guide you to the right people. Have conversations, make connections, laugh, joke. Sometimes that's necessary in face of the stupidity that's all over the place. And make new connections. Community is a beautiful thing. New family is a beautiful thing. Old soul connections are a beautiful thing. Embrace that. Embrace that. And if we do that on all levels, just live a little, strive for a little more excellence in everything we do, I can tell you we will get there much faster. And there is a there. There's not a destination, but there's a there in terms of a trajectory that is easier, better, healthier, more loving, more unifying, more harmonious. I see this in small little pockets already, and we'll see it on the big scale. All right, my friends, I want to thank you so much too for those who have ordered our limited edition shirt. Raise your standards, not your tolerance. So many beautiful comments on that. Love your emails. People have really reacted to this in a beautiful way. It's available for another 24 hours. Links in the description. Christine creates these limited editions. She'll get a spark of inspiration. It could be 11 p.m. and she said, "Can you get the laptop, please? It's something coming through." And then she'll create these shirts, and we'll put them out there. They're wonderful conversation starters. People take this in a provocative way. It's not provocative at all, actually. Raise your standards, not your tolerance. But it's a great conversation starter. And who knows? Who knows? Maybe it'll start the conversation that creates a new friendship, or you'll find, your spouse. You find your future lover. I don't know. At any rate, we want to thank you for your orders, for your support. We really appreciate it. For those of you who want to check it out, links in the description. Raise your standards, not your tolerance. For 24 hours, and it's gone. Limited edition. Much love for you all, my friends. Thank you so much for being here with us. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll be back with you again very, very soon.